Hello, and welcome to Calls from Beyond. When a loved one passes, many of us wish to have one more moment to talk to them. For a few people involved in the following cases, they had just that chance. Sometimes you have to be careful what you wish for. It seems a theme to most reported ghost calls either use a personal number, an unknown number, or most commonly, all zeros longer than phone numbers. One of the first. Konstantin Rodive was one of the leading experts in parapsychology during the 60s and 70s. He frequently focused his studies on contacting and recording the dead with the now common EVP or electronic voice phenomena. While many were very skeptical of his works, I must note that he is the first to record contact that used different languages. With TV programs, you find English-speaking investigators going to Russia, and all the ghosts miraculously and suspiciously speaking English. Mr. Rodive caught spirits speaking in German, Latvian, and French languages. Konstantin released many recordings from his research and even wrote a book about EVPs. On September 2, 1974, he passed away at the age of 65, but he promised, if possible, to make contact. On January 27, 1994, a colleague of Rodive named George Meek claimed to have been contacted by Konstantin. If this account is real, then it would be one of the clearest encounters ever recorded. Again, if it is legitimate. Here is the recording, and I'll let you decide.
Morning, this is George Meek.
This is Konstantin Rodive. George, my friend, at last we succeeded in contacting you. Jeanette is beside me, and she wants to give you all her love. This is Konstantin Rodive. This is the first contact you get from us. I suppose that you can hear me.
I can hear you very well, very plainly.
Fine, so this is the beginning of a new story, a new chapter, George. You are a very good friend of ours, even if we haven't met. We will continue this. This is the first bridge we succeeded to build to the States. Mark was contacted, and I must interrupt now.
Thank you, dear friend. You may not be able to hear me, but I want to take this occasion to say...
Last Ride. This story has circulated quite a bit on many different websites, but I wanted to mention it anyway. On September 12, 2008, a man by the name of Charles Peck was riding on a Metrolink commuter when tragedy struck. The train collided with a freight train, causing multiple deaths, with the toll reaching 25. Mr. Peck was killed instantly, but mysteriously that didn't stop him from contacting his loved ones. Apparently his phone made a total of 35 calls, 12 hours before his body was ever found. Many have surmised that the phone was glitching out and calling all the people in his contact list, but in fact it only called 5 people: his fiancée, stepmother, brother, sister, and his son. Basically everyone that would be closest to his heart. Charles's fiancée answered the calls, but said it just sounded like static, but everyone who tried to call him went straight to voicemail. Oddly enough, rescuers were able to find Mr. Peck's body by using the location of where the cell phone signals were coming from. On an even stranger turn, the phone calls stopped as soon as his body was found. With the times. In most all encounters with the spirit realm of this nature, people frequently get phone calls, but this is one of the few that is a bit different. 56-year-old Frank Jones of Lancashire, England, had quite a bit of activity in his lifetime. I won't get into it much, but he moved into his current house that had a malevolent spirit known simply as the Thing. This being scared off the previous owners and started to affect the Jones family until a priest came and cleansed the home. The household experienced 5 years of peace after the cleansing, and then Frank sadly lost his 32-year-old son Stephen to a brain tumor, and only 3 months after that, he lost his 69-year-old wife Sadie to a heart attack. After this event, Frank started to get strange phone calls and would find his house smelling of cigarettes and Sadie's perfume after no one had even been home. Things really became odd when the family started receiving text messages from Sadie's cell phone. What really makes it odd is his wife was buried with her phone since she always carried it around, and the messages were only things she would say. I know after a while the cell phone company could give the unused number to someone else, but this was happening very shortly after her death. Spirits need investigators too. Our last story entails quite a strange case indeed. A paranormal investigator who was new to the field suddenly received a call from a man requesting help with paranormal things in his house and gave his house phone number. Again, since the investigator was new to the field, he was shocked to have had a call on his cell phone to begin with, since he had just bought it and obviously hadn't given his information out yet. Needing further information, he dialed the number he was given, only to have a woman pick up. After relaying his previous conversation, the woman identified herself as the man's wife, but stated he couldn't have called since he had been dead for 10 years. Figuring he was being hoaxed, the investigator redialed the original number, only to hear a lot of static and for the call to abruptly end. He tried multiple times, only to get the same results. Armed with this information, he called the house number again and discussed everything with the wife. Much to both of their surprise, the number with the static was her and her husband's old number from the house they had years prior that had caught fire. Oddly enough, her husband had died in that fire as well. As a side note, I love these kind of stories, but this one in particular feels off, since the information is so vague and no names are mentioned. It is possible it happened, but then again, it may have been just something from a creative writer. Either way, I wanted to include it since, real or not, these stories are always neat. Before I end this, I wanted to let all of you know that I recently did a podcast for a fellow YouTuber named WolvesandSheeple. He covers a variety of topics, with a lot of them being subjects I don't cover, and I would appreciate you checking out his stuff. I'll provide a link to his channel as well as a link to the podcast I participated in. With that, be safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Later.